I invited you over because, in our brief conversations between, hanging out with our kids and wives and family time and all that, our conversations, they can get deep pretty quickly.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I got to get Chris in here. So I'm glad you're here. I remember maybe a year or two ago, I ended up working with this woman she was very proud that she homeschooled all of her kids. And I remember kind of talking negatively about her because she seemed a little out there, like she didn't make her kids read. And I think her firstborn didn't read till he was like 8 years old. And you're like, what?
Did you say this to her?
No, I kept my mouth shut,
Oh.
Of course. She was the client. She
Yeah.
was the psychologist.
That's right.
I think it was like marriage counseling. She was like a marriage counselor.
Okay.
But anyway, and then you kind of whispered like, oh, by the way, I was homeschooled, and I kind of felt like a dick.
Yeah.
But I really don't have that strong of an opinion on homeschool. I just, from that one experience from the woman not making her kid do anything that they didn't want to do, I kind of felt like.
So because she had shitty children, you discount all of homeschooling. I mean, you can only look at the product, and see and judge it, judge the process based on the product, and what you saw was apparently not too impressive.
Well, I don't know her children. She was talking about her children and how successful they were.
Oh, okay. All right.
And they like lived overseas. One of them was like a professional ballet dancer. They don't, like all types of stuff. I forget the other.
Yeah.
This is a while ago, but maybe her kids were fine.
Yeah.
They sounded like they were. But so let's go to your experience. So tell me about that. What do you remember?
Yeah, I just wanted to step back and say that the homeschooling experience probably varies depending on the type of program it is. And there are a lot out there and increasingly more. And I would say some are less education focused. And some are religious. Some are just parents who, really don't value education per se, but they, fear the school system for whatever reason and pull their, kids out as a form of protest. I consider that to be a little selfish, not really thinking about what's in the best interest of the kids. But, there's all kinds of varieties of homeschool. The one that so this woman that you were talking to, seemed like if she's hiring you and, she's a client, she's a, doctor, probably has a lot of resources for the kids, regardless of whether they're in homeschool or private school or wherever. So I don't think that you could necessarily equate those children's success to the homeschooling, which is probably why it came across as like arrogant, because you're like, did you not, having your kids play with sticks in the woods, instead of reading books, is that, did that contribute to their success, or was it connections and, means in everything that you could provide them? And this is totally projecting, but just based on the little information that you gave me, I would not necessarily say that, those children were entirely, their trajectory in life wasn't dependent on the homeschooling. But, so jumping to my experience, which category I fell into, my dad is a pastor. He's coming up on actually 40 years of being a pastor, Christian, non-denominational. So like the blue jeans, kind of Christian, not a lot of rules or anything like that, but like, I call it normal, Christian light, whatever,
Light.
Yeah, Christian Light.
I like that.
So LITE. Yeah, no.
So you didn't grow up with like, I grew up Catholic, right? I had like my first communion. I was going to church, CCD. I forget what that even stands for. But, every Sunday I'd go to like a class outside of church. So it was like two things.
No, we didn't. We had like Bible studies and stuff like that. So we just had to attend because my dad was there and my mom was there. So we like had to go.
Was there Eucharist and wine and stuff like that? Or is that
no,
that's only a Catholic?
They did. Yeah, they did. But it was like you didn't have to do your first communion, get like baptized or anything like that. You or confirmed by, the church in any way. It was just like, once you're sitting in the main service, they pass around these little crackers and some little things of grape juice, and then you take, so it wasn't like anything like, I went to like a Catholic mass a couple times with Emily. She was raised Catholic. Not wooden pews and all that stuff. It wasn't like that at all. So, but my homeschooling was through the church, and it was my mom was a stay-at-home mom. My dad was a pastor, of the church, and so my mom was my teacher up until third grade. That's when I wasn't in homeschool for very long, I guess, but it was up until third grade, and it was interesting. It was interesting to have the perspective of both homeschool and now public school.
Pause 1 second. So did you grow up with siblings?
Yeah. No. Yeah, I did. I did. Yeah.
Yeah. So third grade, like why did you stop at third grade? Or why did they stop? Because they were the ones.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it had to do with my mom wanting to go back to work. Actually, I'm getting again that time thing. I don't have it. Mm-hmm. No, that was probably much later. That was probably like my mom going back to work was probably later than that. Maybe it was. I don't know. I think it had something to do with her wanting a little more freedom to kind of kick it to us, and it was also somewhat brought on by us. The older siblings. I have three siblings. Younger brother. So it's my older sister, me, my younger sister, and then my younger brother. He's the youngest. And so we, my mom.
And what's the age difference? Your older sister, how many years? So when you were in third grade, what grade was she in?
Fifth.
And did you all stop at the same time, or did she stop everyone at third grade?
It was a decision that we made across the board and kind of put it to a vote. And all of the older siblings said, "Yeah, we want to go to public school." It's just isolating. Even if you have even if there's four siblings, it's still isolating socially, and it can, in our case, I feel like it can, kind of stunt your social growth, and it the biggest, what I think is like one of those, I won't even say it's intangible because it's pretty tangible, important like parts of your education is the socializing aspect of it. And yes, it was through the church, and occasionally you got together with other kids who were also homeschooled through the same program for like graduations that they had in an auditorium somewhere. But for the most part, you were completely, it was just your family at home. So, we felt we still, we would do our lessons, during the day. We'd have like a break midday, and like go out and play, outside, and the any neighbors who were home and weren't working were like, what are these kids, doing running around? Like we had one neighbor who was super annoying, and she threatened to call like the either child protective service, CPS or somebody, or the I don't know if they call them a truant, but like whoever is like supposed to rally kids who are like out of school. You weren't really a part of the neighborhood, even though there were a lot of kids around. And that's the part that we really, we just wanted a little bit more freedom, and like it feels like you're like, we could even get the sense that we were like a little becoming a little sheltered, even from our brief, experience, relatively brief experience in the homeschool. So, I think that I guess this is a long way to say that the biggest part that we felt we were missing out on was the social aspect of public school.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense. I heard somewhere some child psychologist says, third or fourth grade is when you start to care more about what your peers think than what your parents think. And of course that gets stronger and stronger. And then by the time you're in high school, you can't stand to look at your parents, right? I mean, I shouldn't generalize. I don't know. I know there's
you're alone on that one, man. Sorry. I love my parents. What are you talking about?
Yeah, when you were 13, you were just like, Mom, you want to come with me to the store?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I was so ready to get my driver's license when I was like 15 and 9 months. It was like, let's do this.
Yeah. I
need freedom.
Yeah. And
then I need to run away. And that's what's kind of interesting about today, and the world we live in and all that stuff. I heard a stat, it could be fake, but it makes sense.
We'll run with it.
Yeah, we'll go with it, right? I'm just like spreading fake news. No, 60% of 18-year-olds don't have driver's licenses right now.
Okay.
And kids are living with their parents longer, which there's many factors, right? And a lot of it's financial, right? It's just so hard. Everything's so expensive, and the wages aren't there. But I found that interesting that I don't know what the statistics were back in 2004.
Yeah,
when we were 18 or so.
Yeah.
But I feel like it wasn't 60%. I feel like more people had their driver's license back then. I don't know. It seemed like a much bigger deal. Like everyone was going for it, at least from my experience. I went to Gaithersburg High School, public school. It wasn't a rich private school or anything. So.
Yeah, I mean that could just because the kids care about the planet. No. I don't think that's it at all. I mean, I clearly don't know what the statistics were, but yeah, my peers and like everybody in high school wanted to get their driver's license. And I don't think I've heard anybody, from nieces and nephews, like I haven't heard anybody pushing back on getting their driver's license. So I think if you have the ability to get it, then I think people are still very much interested in that, gaining that freedom. Yeah, I don't know if there's any correlation to that, and people coddling their children or whatever, or kids feeling like they don't have the ability to move out or go explore. I don't know.
Yeah. But let's go back. So your first year of public school was fourth grade then?
Third grade.
Third. Oh, okay.
It came in kind of in the middle, like I want to say kind of towards the middle of the year. So it wasn't the very beginning of the year, which is a little odd, and I'm not sure why that decision was. But that's when I came in, and was certainly behind in some aspects. That's the other part. It's not all social. There were after I did go to public school, I realized that my mom, who was previously my teacher, had been kind of catering to me and the way that I learn, but that's not how every school is, and that's not necessarily. I don't know. I mean, I'm not a teacher. Emily is. She could probably talk to that more.
Yeah.
But I don't think that that's necessarily setting you up for the reality of the educational system. At least not back then. They weren't. I wasn't in classes. I wasn't special needs, so I wasn't like, going to be catered to. And so my reading and some other stuff was behind. Where it should have been, because my mom was probably slowing down for me to learn at my own pace at home. And then you get dropped into like the public school system, and then you got to catch up. So that was, I don't remember, struggling per se, but I know that was a challenge. I don't remember the, homework assignments that were like keeping me up at night or anything like that. But like, it definitely was not an easy, a super easy transition, and I would assume that the longer that you're in it, the harder the transition probably is.
Would you ever consider, with your own kids now, would you ever consider homeschooling them if, let's say, well, you obviously don't want to do it because then otherwise you'd be doing it, but it's also hard to even think of that because of the financial stress.
Yeah.
That it's like we almost feel like both parents have to work, right?
Yeah.
But let's say Emily wanted to homeschool, would you be open to it? Or like if she wanted to?
if we had 2 more children and it penciled out. Yeah. No, no, seriously. No, because she is a teacher, you know, I would object to it less. And she comes up with so many, like, you know, comes up with so many activities. I don't think it would be hard for her to do it. I don't think she'd want to do it, but I wouldn't be opposed to it. I kind of take the backseat a little bit on, you know, our kids' education. I'm kind of more like set it to the default rather than trying to reinvent the wheel, which has come up in a lot of conversations because, you know, you hear it all the time. Parents are always trying to, you know, take their kid out of whatever school they're supposed to be in, you know, the public school, and then they're trying to move them over here, and you know, you got all the parents with the ability to move their kids, you know, to the good school, and it's almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy where if you get enough of the kids of, like, you know, the wealthy families to send all their kids to one school, that's going to become the good school because all the money's going to that school. You know, it doesn't even mean that school was good to begin with, and Emily's worked at schools like that where it's like, you know, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, and that's all to say that I'm more of the school of thought that as long as you have 2 active parents, and I say that just because it's a privilege, it's a luxury to have 2 active parents, you know, in your life, which I was very fortunate to have. As long as you have that support system at home, I think your kids are probably going to be fine, relatively fine wherever they are, unless they're in physical danger at the school. It's like, you know, full of gangs or something like that. But I feel like that, you know, kind of gets overblown. And if you were at a school like that, you would definitely know.
Gatesburg High School.
Yeah, that's what I
heard
was
about
saying.
MS-13.
I was waiting to hear from you. Yeah.
But, you know, there were so many kids at that school. There were, I think, 2,500 total. So something like 600 or 700 a class. Wow. I mean, I only, you know, if there's 600 kids in your class, you might know 100, 150 of them. Yeah. So I didn't know the majority of people I went to high school with, which, wow. I mean, a lot of people have lived that, right? Did you go to, where did you go to?
In Columbia, Maryland.
Was it a big public school?
Yeah. Wild Lake High School in Columbia, Maryland, across kind of near the mall up there. I wish I knew how big our class was. I have it in my head that it was like 500 maybe, but it wasn't
similar.
Yeah, it wasn't
still
like
a lot of kids. It's not like some kids are like, oh yeah, or some private schools are like, oh yeah, 50 kids in a class, and it's like definitely you know every single kid, right? So
yeah,
it's just a different experience.
Yeah, I did know a lot of the kids though, so like by name, like I'm good at like remembering fate. Like I was just up in Columbia, yeah, every time I go there, I see somebody half the time, you know, that I know, you know, and I remember their faces, even if they've gotten, you know, bald or, you know, bigger or whatever.
Do you say hi to them?
Sometimes, yeah. Most of the time, if I had a, you know, any sort of like a, you know, rapport relationship, not even relationship. If I talked to them in the past, then yeah, I'd be like, hey, did you go to? And even if I didn't, sometimes I'll be like, hey, you went to Wild Lake, didn't you? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, I'd remember their name, and they'd remember my name, and they're like, yeah, like I remember seeing you around. And I've had a couple instances of that at like the playground or whatever. Now that we have kids, and you're like running into a lot of the people, because Columbia was so kid friendly. It's such a kid friendly place to raise, you know, your family, that a lot of people I went to high school moved right back. They're like went to college, and now they're all there. So I know where I could find like half of them. But no, yeah. I mean, I forgot where
we're not going anywhere, man. We're just talking about our childhoods, really.
Yeah.
So it sounds like
gangs.
Gangs.
MS-13. Yeah, no gangs. No gangs in my school. Just bored suburban kids who you know got into trouble every now and then.
But that's what we were. That's what my friends and I were doing too.
Yeah.
We weren't affiliated with the gangs, and they had no interest in goofy white boys. So it was like. You know,
I mean, you could have been a mule.
I could have been.
Yeah.
I could have taken advantage of it.
Yeah.
Luckily, they didn't swoop me up.
Yeah.
I was friends with a couple of big kids, like just big dudes.
Yeah.
They were like huge in like 8th grade. So like nobody ever messed with them. And I somehow
You had bodyguards.
I did. Shout out to Kyle and Ben.
That's great.
Ben's not a bodyguard anymore. I think he's like 5'9", 5'10", but like he was like 5'9", 5'10" in middle school. So like, he was just a early bloomer.
Good enough.
Anyway, so I was friends with them, and so maybe that's what it was. Maybe I just didn't even know.
Yeah.
I just had bodyguards. I just didn't even know about it. I could have gotten.
Yeah, you were tough by association. You know?
Yeah, man.
Yeah. No, I mean, I appreciate the homeschool, experience that I had for what it was, but we didn't even miss a beat when she asked us if we wanted to go to public school. We were all like, yep, we're done. I mean, getting up in the morning when you want to, and, that's fine and all. But you don't really appreciate that sort of stuff until high school. I feel like until middle school and high school, after you see how like annoying school can be, that's when you appreciate not going. So if you've never been, then of course you're not going to appreciate, being able to, sleep in or get, have your mom cook breakfast in the morning and all that stuff, and honestly, we didn't really miss it when we did go to public school.
It kind of separates, I would imagine, it separates your home life from your own life. Like your own life is like, yes, you have teachers and authority.
Yeah.
Like making sure you're doing your work, you're paying attention, you're doing what you're supposed to do. But it's totally separate. You're away from your parents for 8 hours a day, which I would imagine is just a different life experience. You might grow in a different way, right, when you're separated.
I feel like you have to. I mean, I feel like that's what you need. I mean, for your development, I feel like you got to cut the cord. You got to go. Mm-hmm. You got to be, and it's scary because our daughter's, she's 5, about to go into kindergarten, and it's scary, but at the same time, it's I want to kind of rip the Band-Aid off and just get them out in the real world, so we can have real conversations about real things rather than pretend that beat around the bush and just pretend that the world is a better place than it actually is. I think the sooner you realize that, and not go completely off the deep end and make a bunch of cynical kids, but like same time you have to be prepared for there are going to be people who aren't nice, and there are going to be people who don't like you for no reason. There are going to be plenty of those people out there, and I think the biggest disservice you can do is protecting your kids from people that they don't like, because that's what is the most important part of being a part of a society. It's not creating a homogenous society where you only get along with everybody, because that is BS. It doesn't exist. It's figuring out how to work with people that you don't like, and being forced to work with those people. That's how you can learn what type of person you are. That's how you can learn patience. That's how you can learn how to defend your interests. It's how you learn independent. It's how you just learn how to be an independent, functioning member of society. It's just dealing with things you don't want to deal with and people that you don't want to deal with. Yeah. And that's just it's just life. Of course. So it's just
right. So how do we do that? How do you what are your thoughts on? I think about this all the time. There's 2 things I want my kid to be.
An astronaut.
Okay. And a podcaster.
Yeah.
No. I want her to be resilient, and I want her to be happy, right? Or be mentally stable, and really resiliency, I feel like is number one for me. So I'm always wrestling with like, how hard are you on your kid, and about what, and all that. So yeah, I mean, what's your experience? You're a couple years ahead of me. Yeah. I got a 3-year-old, you got a 5-year-old. So we've kind of both dealt with the young temper tantrums and all that.
Yeah.
These little humans exploring this emotion and how to handle it. So what are some of the struggles that you've dealt with when it comes to,
like currently, I mean, like,
man. No, currently, or like, what's been the hardest part of the past 5 years, or like a moment when you're like, man, I'm really not sure what to do. I'm probably screwing up here, or anything like that. You're like, oh, last night actually.
No, I don't have that. Oh man, blame that on how society raised men. I don't have the thing that second guesses me and says, oh, I did something wrong. No, I don't have. No,
if that's how you feel, that's great.
But it's not. I mean, but at a certain point, I don't think I've done anything to traumatize our kids yet, too.
Right,
so
right.
it's like,
neither do I, but I am still like, and it also is very different having one child.
Yeah,
I think about that, like, kind of everything we do revolves around her. I'm like, I wonder how that's going to affect her.
Yeah,
right? But when you have two, naturally, I feel like you can only give half of your attention to both of them, right? In a way, like just generalizing, right?
Yeah.
And so half of the time they don't get their way because the other, your youngest wants to do this or.
Our son is 2, and he, has been, just throwing more tantrums. And honestly, we didn't really deal with the terrible 2s with our daughter, who's 5 now. It was more 3s that were more trying for her. But now we're experiencing like a little, I don't know if it's just a recent hiccup, or a trend. I hope it's not a new trend, but he's certainly more fussy and more, he's very particular about doing things himself now. Which I know happens at a point. I just remember it happening later for our daughter, and he's at the point where he's like, you let him pick out, you have to let him pick out something, because if you pick it out, it doesn't matter if it's the same thing he would have picked out. It's wrong because you picked it out. And then he'll say, I don't want that one, and they'll go grab, the pants that he wants to wear. And then he looks at them. He's like, oh, I don't want them, even though he picked them. And then he goes back to the same pants that you picked out for him in the first place, and it's like, so we're just dealing with that. He wants to be independent, he's been, more vocal about being independent recently. And we're just, trying to feel that one out, because it's tantrums that will. Anything that is not exactly what he wants, he's starting to throw a tantrum, and that is not how we have raised him up to this point. So I don't know where it's really coming from, where he thinks that he can just get anything that he wants, and we're like, we're not serving that for dinner. That's not, and this is a hard no. And we're trying to be more firm with those, but it's so hard, particularly, food is a huge thing, because kids are, picky and you want them to eat. And so it's hard to tell a kid if they want something that's still healthy and you have it right there. It's hard to tell them no, but at the same time, it feels like if we keep on giving them separate meals, that we're reinforcing bad behavior, and it's starting, and it will have a ripple effect into other aspects of life. And that honestly, that has been, as I say that's my biggest challenge in general, is just I am incredibly aware and averse to starting a bad precedent. Like I see us doing something like letting our daughter's been getting up in the morning, and then my wife let her come into our bedroom and then hop in our bed a couple of times. She's like, oh, it's not a big deal, and I'm like, well, we're setting up, like, we never had our daughter sleep in our bed. We never had anybody else sleep in our bed. We're setting up, like, I'm super sensitive to that, because I, like, you give a mouse, a cookie in the last whatever the phrase is, give them an inch, take whatever.
They'll take a mile.
Yeah. So, it's just, I'm very sensitive to that, and trying not to confuse the kids by messing up the routine, because they do so well when it's a routine. And my wife feels that I'm too rigid sometimes, because I don't want to introduce something that I think is going to be habit forming, like a bad habit, like getting up in the morning and turning on cartoons. We don't want to do that. I get that if a kid's sick, you might want to do it. This happened yesterday. That's why it's so fresh in my mind. Yeah, who knew that you'd have anecdotes every single day, when you deal with it every day. Yeah. But yeah, like just little things like that, turning on the TV first thing in the morning if a kid's sick. I'd rather not do it because the other kids around has to go to daycare, and then he threw an absolute fit when he had to leave, and she was, had been watching TV, and he knew she was at home. Just wait the 30 minutes. She can survive for 30 minutes without a television, and then like get the other kid out. Like if you turn on a TV, their mind is like just.
That sounds just like avoiding the chaos of a meltdown before you're out the door in the morning. That's not even like a bad habit. Like, hey, we just need to manage having 2 children. Yeah, because TV is, we all know. Yeah. Screens are just addictive. Adults are addicted to them. We're addicted. Kids are addicted. I mean, it's they're just entertainment. It's fun. Yeah. So I kind of cut you off there. So, kind of making a total pivot to somewhere else, but still involving your kids. Like you mentioned, your dad was a pastor. So you grew up religious. Explain. Yeah. Okay. And then when did you start to separate from that? And because, I should ask you, like, are you religious now?
Not particularly.
Not really. Like, you're not taking your kids to church every Sunday. Right?
No.
Okay. So I'm interested. I find religion fascinating. People that believe in it, people that don't.
Yeah.
I think it is a
right, wrong, or indifferent. It is a very good way to control people. Whether that's your motive or not, it's funny how that works. It also happens to be a great way to control people.
It does.
Very effective to say that it's not me, it's somebody else that you can't talk to. You can't run it by them. No, but they definitely said it.
that is the biggest. That's what separates me from religion. I grew up Catholic, but I'm not really religious anymore. Is all the people that want to speak for God, and say like, no, God doesn't want this, and I'm just like, you're just telling a story, like, you don't know what God wants.
No, I mean,
and I understand there's like, there's the Bible and you follow rules, but then like they'll pull out, I don't really have an example right now, but they'll pull things out and say, God doesn't want you to
there's a lot of
be gay, or like just like random, and you're like, who said that? Is that you saying that? And then you're just saying, oh, it's God, but it's really you.
No, what really, this is getting away from your question, unfortunately, but like what really bothers me is when people can't see they refuse to, they ignore the reality of they ignore the end of religion. They ignore what is happening, what you're seeing unfold in front of you in real time, and they're and I don't want people to, I hate it when people ignore the misuse and abuse of people's trust that is just inherent with giving human beings power over other human beings. The power abuse happens, and people use religion as a way to control people, and I'm not saying that everybody does that, but it is a very useful tool to get people in line, and it has been for a while, and for organizing people for good or for bad. It's a great tool to organize people, and I think that's the part that I think, pivoting a little bit to more positive before I go way down the deep end of all the negative stuff that everybody's heard 1,000 times. The sense of community is something that Emily, that my wife and I, is something that we both value, and something that doesn't really fully exist in the same magnitude in the public, in the secular sphere. There isn't a secular version that I'm aware of church, because the good thing is that people feel obligated to go. There's maybe it's different since the pandemic, since you're watching it online sometimes, but like a lot of people, like, it's a thing that you do. It's a ritual. You get up, you get dressed, you put on your good clothes, and or whatever good clothes, and then you go. You go to a place and you see people and you talk to people. There's still gossip there, whatever. You catch up with your community and you feel connected to something bigger than yourself, and you feel connected to people that you don't necessarily see all the time. Sometimes they're neighbors, sometimes they're people that you only see on Sundays. But it's a thing that there's a sense of obligation that kind of gets people, out of bed and goes there, to go there. If you're going to an event or any other thing. Sorry, can I pause?
Yeah, you can pause.
No, I don't know who this is. Sorry, I'm gonna take it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm right there with you. I think I have friends that go to church, and they, it's really about the community, right? It's bonding with the community, seeing the same people, and connecting to something bigger than yourself. It's helpful for so many people. It's like I think with religion, there's the thoughts of life and death and purpose and life's purpose, and it can help a lot of people find a purpose or come to peace with losing somebody that they really care about, family member, friend. Have you ever been around somebody that's taking their last breath?
No.
Have you been in it's I haven't either, but I've been very close. Like my aunt passed about a month ago.
Oh,
It's all right. It wasn't unexpected, and she was in a lot of pain at the end. So it's kind of like, at least she's at peace. But seeing and talking to people, my mom was with her for her last breath. And my mom's not a very religious person, even though she raised us Catholic. She said there's something really different. There's something that happens, and she couldn't explain it. And I also talked to, or I heard my wife's uncle passed from ALS, and his wife was with him, and she said the same thing. And so it's like when somebody passes, it's almost like you can feel their soul like leave their body and go somewhere. Like my mom's like, yeah, she's definitely somewhere right now. Like the human body is just a vessel, right? So where she is and what she's doing, we'll never know.
Yeah.
With all the people that pass away, we never know. We'll find out one day.
Yeah.
And so that's what everyone's trying to, everyone's trying to answer that question. And a lot of people go to religion to just be like, okay, this is the answer. I'm just going to follow it.
Yeah.
This is what I believe.
It brings people peace, and there's a lot to say for that. I mean, people need it clearly. There's clearly a void that religion fills for a lot of people, and not necessarily to their detriment. It's just we are very, we're able to reason with ourselves to an extent, but there are limitations to what we can comprehend, and religion helps to kind of ease those, ease the gaps in what we're able to comprehend sometimes. And I'm not saying it's certainly not a substitute for science, because you can explain stuff away all the time, but there's certain times where you want a level of comfort that science doesn't necessarily provide, and that is, religion sometimes. And I am not, like I said, I'm not currently very religious, so I can't really make the strongest argument for it. But, I do see it as a useful tool for a lot of people, and it can help people through really hard times in a way that, cold hard facts and science don't necessarily do as much for your mental well-being, and feeling connected to a higher purpose, whatever that may be. And I'm not saying that religion is the only way to feel connected to a higher purpose, But that is definitely something that has come up, in reports. I'm gonna pull a statistic out of my butt. But
good, we want that. That's interesting.
No, there's no
60% of kids.
I'm not gonna throw a number, but certainly heard it multiple times from different sources about people being psychiatrist sources, that people feel happiness, the greatest happiness, when they feel connected to a whole larger themselves, and when they feel that they're contributing to their community. And religion is a great way for people to feel that they're connected, because you're singing with a bunch of people that's pretty connected. You're in a room together with a bunch of people, you're all dressed up, you all got there at the same time, you're singing with them, whatever. Everybody's like trying to forget about their problems for a little bit, or they're in their problems, right there with you, and you just feel like more connected with everybody, because everybody is there for a reason. Everybody is there to either, to help, to listen, to be healed. They're hoping for something good. Nobody goes to church hoping for something bad. They go there maybe because something bad happened, but nobody goes there, trying to ruin somebody's day.
Right.
So it's a positive. It's in general, it's typically a positive environment. And yes, there's gossip going on there, but that's everywhere.
That's humanity. Humans. Yeah, that's not a church thing. Yeah. Yeah. So is your dad still a pastor?
He is. I'm actually this weekend I'm going to his 40th pastoral anniversary. He just became a pastor a little bit before I was born, apparently. So I'm going to be going to that. My wife and kids are not going to be going because it's right in the middle of nap time. Kids are also a great way to have an out for things like that. But I'm gonna go.
Have you I don't know how much you've thought of this, but your kids grow up, your relationship is always changing and evolving, and that's some of the fun, right? And it's really changed how I look at my parents now that I have a child, because I'm like, oh man, I was that?
Yeah.
Like, I'm that important to them, even still. Like, I visited my dad, what was it, last summer, and my dad's not a very touchy-feely, emotional guy. He's an emotional guy, but he's never been that emotional with me, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And he came over and he just gave me like a little hug, and I was like sitting on my computer like doing something. He's like, I'm so glad you came. And so like, I know not all dads are like that. Some people don't have relationships with their dads. But where I'm going with this is, have you, how is your relationship with your dad? And, your dad is still practicing what he does. He's a pastor. He preaches every Sunday, I would imagine, right?
Yeah.
Have you talked to him about religion and his thoughts, or is this something you don't see him that often, so you're just like, I'm just going to avoid that? Is that?
Yeah, it's more of the latter. I mean, I saw him a couple week ago. We went out to lunch, or maybe 2 weeks ago. But yeah, no, just to catch up, and kept it light, talk about the kids and stuff like that. But I never dive too deep into religion around him. He knows that I'm not, practicing or going to church or anything like that. I just don't, trying to create a relationship with him that is easy for everybody. And if you knew him, it can be a little difficult to connect with him, because he is so involved with the church. And this is a negative side effect, and I think this has to do with being with one, his personality, and two, just being in a leadership position in a church. I think that he connects more on a macro scale than he does on a micro scale. So it always felt like he was paying not more attention, but he was more focused on his, I hate to say it, but image being a pastor than he was necessarily in the well-being, and that's a hard word to say, but the well-being of his immediate family. And I don't think he, was neglectful and anything like that, but I felt that.
Do you invite him over a lot, or is it just you keep your distance? Because
it's difficult. It's difficult because he is more of a, give me an invite, and maybe he'll be able to go there, but he has not catered his life to the schedules of grandkids, whereas my mom has. She gets it. She's like, what are you doing? I want to see the kids, so I'm going to come to your house. Are you going to be around? And so, that's the.
I find struggling with that because I have people that I'm close, that I really enjoy spending time with, people that I want to be, a part of my daughter's life, but they live far away. We're an hour away, and like you said, it's hard. You're either working, you're going to a kid's birthday party, or you have a day off, and then you're like, let me just do nothing.
Yeah.
So it's hard to keep the relationships going. But that's interesting what you said about your dad. I mean, everyone's doing what they think is best.
Yeah, no, it is what it is. I mean,
it is what it is.
I just, in order to be a part of the social group, you need to put in the effort to be a part of that. And I wish that he was available for more frequent, less formal meetups, because that would be, and I've told him that before, that is what works best for us and what the kids react best to, because they like to be at home where they're familiar with things. They don't want to go to a house where they're, they don't know anything. They want to play with their toys. They're, not at ease. It's easy when you show up to a kid's house, to their home, and you want to play with them there. That's how grandparents, that's how a grandparent would be, unless you have a super fun house, and you have toys everywhere like their grandmother does. So, but that's rare. I don't expect everybody to keep toys when they don't have small children.
Speaking of toys, we got a couple. I know we have adult toys of our own.
Yeah.
Not referencing the car stuff, which we can get into, but I don't have much to say about the ridiculous car I have in that garage.
Yeah.
But what I am interested in, I remember this was back in summer 2020. I was hanging out with a neighbor across the street, Mr. John.
Yeah.
And this was this first summer of COVID, and we're outside, 6 feet apart, having some beer. And we looked over. I remember looking over, and I saw this. You carrying this big PC tower.
Yeah.
And I was like, holy shit, Chris is a gamer.
Yeah.
I was like, what? I was like, I'm a gamer. So then I remember reaching out. I know we've talked about it a bit. And what's interesting, just in the past few weeks, I've really started to disconnect finally from the games. But Helldivers is fun, man.
I haven't played it.
Shout out to Helldivers. Yeah. We should get it 100%. I'm playing it with. And that's the thing, that if you're not a gamer, I think people play video games for many different reasons. There's a lot of decompression. I kind of look at it as therapy, just disconnecting from all the chaos of life. And then there's also the social aspect. For me, that's what it is. I think it's very fun to go on and play with some friends. But I'm not, for me, I'm not just going to go play a game by myself.
Yeah.
It's always got to be I got to have friends online to play with.
Yeah.
I don't know if you feel the same way.
The exact opposite.
That's fine.
180 degrees opposite.
You're I don't want to talk to anyone. I just want to shoot those people over there.
No, it's the nature of the games that I play. I play I grew up in that the PlayStation 1 and Super Nintendo sort of JRPG world. So
what's JRPG?
The Japanese
games. Yeah, anime guy. Okay.
So the Final Fantasies, Chrono Trigger, all of the Squaresoft and Capcom, Breath of Fire, all the classic Japanese RPGs, they're like, 99, 100 hours, whatever. It's mostly story driven, turn based, 2D with like a, so Zelda, they all follow like the same similar formulas, it's like an interactive movie or a puzzle versus a game where you have to be hyper focused on, your reaction time, like, cause something's coming right over there, like
Baldur's Gate 3 I heard is amazing. I still haven't, I got some friends that really like it. But yeah, I'm right there with you. I like the RPG stuff. So like the stuff where you're playing a game and every time you hop on, you're like progressing. Yeah. There's like progression, right? That's fun.
Yeah.
I'm not a big shooter guy either, except when it comes to Helldivers. I don't know what
I've heard good. Yeah. Really.
I mean, the simple like friendly fire is genius. It's off in every game except for you can die through somebody like landing on you. So have you seen the game at all? It's you have up to 4 people, right? And you're dying all the time. It's crazy. I think you have 20 lives combined collectively. 20 lives for the mission. And when you die, you spawn, and when you spawn, you're diving back into the planet from like the ship, and you can land on each other and kill each other that way, blow each other up with bombs, shoot each other. So
there's all kinds of there's fall damage, fire damage, any kind of damage.
Anything. The ship extracting you at the end of the mission can land on you and kill you. Yeah. So it's like everything's very real.
Yeah.
And it's funny how like
don't touch that.
That might not sound like it's that much fun, but like when you're with friends, man, it's just like, dude, you just blew me up, man. Yeah. It's funny, but yeah, man, we gotta get on the divers. But I'm only mentioning video games because I think, adults playing video games, we're both in our late 30s.
Yeah.
Right. Video games are like mainstream culture now, where maybe when we were younger, I think there were a lot of kids playing games, but I think a lot of kids stopped.
But your dad didn't play video games though.
Right.
So my dad did though.
Your dad did?
My dad played computer games. Like
Commander Keen?
Like Commander Keen.
Oh my God.
He had Duke Nukem. He had a game called Biohazard, and he had another gem that some people might know called Phantasmagoria. You probably haven't heard of it. It is a horrible game in terms of like violence and like, it was bad. Like it was like rated M before games were M.
Have you ever thought about why? I know we're not playing games that much anymore, but have you ever thought about why you continued up until recently?
Well, I jumped back in this week because I had time off. Yeah,
okay, so why are you jumping back in?
Because I had time. If
I
have enough time, sometimes I want to watch a show, and sometimes I don't want to dive back into a video game. Sometimes I don't even have the mental capacity to get back into a game. Like, for example, I'm playing the Horizon Zero Dawn PC port on my computer, and I'm like 98, 90. I'm on the last mission, and I finished the DLC, and I'm on the last mission of the actual game, and I still just haven't gotten back in to finish it. And I probably forgot all the controls and everything now. And the new Forbidden West game came out a couple weeks ago, and I want to play that, but I got to beat the old. I want to beat the old one. It's a good story, good game. It came out for PlayStation, so it's a PC port. It's not a PC specific game, but
so was I accurate when I said that when you play video games you want to disconnect from everyone? You don't necessarily want to like talk to anyone or play with anyone? Because you said you were the complete opposite, where it's like that's almost a necessity. If I go online to a game and there's no one to play with, I guess I'll play for a little bit, like 10-20 minutes, and then I'm like, there's no one's here to like do stuff with.
It's different. I have to be in a different headspace, and I need to. I obviously did play games with my friends back in like high school and middle school when we were playing GoldenEye and stuff like that, and Mario Kart, and those are fun. They are more social. But back then, you had to be in the same place. Like you all had to be there. You were all like waiting for turns to play the game. There was 4 controllers. So everybody was playing. Now I'm hoping that's the same. I'm assuming it's the same thing now. If you get a group of friends that and you're able to connect with them and they're all on at the same time. What I have fallen into right now is it's way easier for me and low effort for me to dive into a game on my time and not have to wait for other people or try and sync up a schedule. It's just being, kind of being lazy, but like when I have the time, pop on, play a game for a couple hours, and then, shut it down. I'm not like working on anybody else's schedule. So. Yeah,
that's something that I have recently appreciated, the whole time thing. And, I think I've talked to you about the World of Warcraft stuff, right? It's like, it was fun, and I play with a lot of the same guys, and I still, I'm on Discord like every day checking. We're still like talking about whatever. But yeah, I find myself just exhausted and really done with the scheduling. Like, all right, guys, there's going to be 20 of us. We're all going to meet up at 10:30 p.m. and we're going to play until 1 a.m. on a Tuesday night. And I'm like, and I did it for a long time because I did enjoy it somewhat somehow. But I stopped doing that like 6 months ago.
Okay.
4 or 5 months ago, and it's been great.
Not doing that?
Yeah. I'm like, fuck, I really did not.
It's a weightlifting.
It's so weird, dude. It's just a game. It's like, why am I so committed to a game, right? And I felt like with those games, you need all 25 people to play the game.
Really?
And, yeah, dude. There's like signups, and if you sign up, and then there's like a roster, and like there's people that are on the bench. Dude, wow. It's a whole nother level of gaming. And yeah, disconnecting from that has been really great. Shout out to my WoW buddies, but it's
been great not talking to you guys.
But now there's a version of the game that I'm kind of still playing now, but this podcast has really taken over all my free time, which I've been enjoying. I'm like, oh, this is just like a creative outlet instead of just like wasting time in a virtual world, Yeah,
video games, waste of time. Check.
Yeah, but it's a waste of time that's like, it can be healthy.
I mean, you waste so much time. Like watching TV is a waste of time.
It's all we all have our waste of time. Yeah. Reading a book.
Yeah.
I mean, your vocabulary might grow when you read books. But if you're reading like a fiction novel, like
I get vocabulary. I probably have better vocabulary from playing like RPG video games, like the lore and learning like Norse gods and like Aztec gods and stuff like that, because that's what the items and stuff are named after. Yeah, you pick up a lot
100%.
of like just general knowledge playing video games that you can.
Insults too, you call someone a peon.
Yeah,
like what's like it's from the game. Do you know what a peon? Do you know what a peon is?
Way back, yeah.
Do you know what a peon is?
Yeah, it's you.
It's me.
Peon.
Bro, you don't know what a peon is.
It's
a little green orc worker. It's like an orc slave.
So a peon is also just a peasant, though. Like,
yeah.
It's
not. I'm not saying it's unique. That word isn't unique.
I thought you.
I'm just saying in my game, I learned what peon was because I'm like, oh, they're lazy peons. It's like one of the first missions in the game.
Yeah.
You got to smack these peons that are napping on the ground, and then they're and then they like go back to chopping wood.
This is teaching you how to be a horrible human being. Peons, yeah.
Video games. What are you doing? Free time. What do you do in your free time if you're not gaming? Or just like spending time with your wife, I guess.
No, no. That's actually sad. But we like go our separate ways after the kids go to bed. We're like, sorry. After the kids go to bed, she gets immediately into bed and starts reading her book, on her Kindle, and I just go downstairs and do like watch TV or play a video game or do, go out for a drive or do whatever. Like that's, she falls asleep so quickly. If we're not watching a show, then, she just, goes to bed and reads a book. And that's something that we need to get better about, like figuring out something. But like, I don't know. She's just, is not a nighttime person. So yeah, we have not been spending as much time as we could because she goes to bed so early and I don't.
Yeah. We're in the same boat, man.
Yeah.
It's kind of similar, like, and I've recently been like, hey, we should really
Yeah.
Make sure we're staying connected, right?
Yeah.
But there's only so much battery you have in a day, right? Like, you get up, you get your kids ready, you go to work. If your work isn't that fulfilling, or even if it is, it can be draining. You're drained. Oh, your kids are back. You do dinner, bedtime. And so how much battery do you have left?
Lots. Lots.
I'm good with it, but I know some people aren't. You know, sometimes some. So where I'm going is, you know, sometimes you just like, you know, my wife just doesn't have the capacity to like
rally,
flirt with me, or like beep, beep, like have a real conversation, because she's like, dude, I'm exhausted. I just want to like you just said, like read a book and pass out. Yeah, like I'm done for the day. Like I'm not. So it's a women I can't interact.
Thing. It's a women thing.
You know, I think they might be listening, but no. Yeah, I mean, maybe it is. Yeah. Maybe there's some truth to it. Just, you know, we're speaking in generalities, right? Yeah. Not all women are like that,
but from our sample size, 100%,
from our
100%,
2 for 2,
2 for 2, it must be.
They just
facts.
They tap out.
Statistics.
Like,
you can't argue with 100%.
Yeah,
come on now. Yeah. So no,
we'll have to talk to John and see where he's at with that.
Yeah,
I have a feeling that.
I have a feeling. Yeah,
he's 3 for 3.
Yeah. Yeah. No, definitely. Yeah, man, that's
Did you so I think I heard you earlier talking about your parents living in different places. So
yeah,
they're divorced. Okay.
Yes, they are.
So I mean, 50% of, you know, we don't need to go down the divorce route, but 50%, it's like half of marriages end up that way.
And they're better for it.
Yeah.
Get divorced. Yeah.
Yeah. So when did that happen? Like when?
College. Like the time for divorce. Yeah.
So
the season.
They did the whole.
You stick to it for the kids, and then get divorced. Yeah. No, I mean, I'm very, you know, proud of my mom for getting out of that. You know, and yeah.
Because I don't want that to happen to us or
what?
Anyone. Well, like you're focused, you stay together for the kids type thing. I don't.
So you're saying I should divorce her now?
No.
Sorry, honey.
No, you shouldn't. You should stay connected, and you should.
That wasn't the reason why they got divorced. So
yeah. So I have no idea, but I'm saying generally speaking, not specifically with your parents' divorce, but with divorce in general. I think you lose connection, and you ignore it, and you ignore each other, and you just become farther and farther apart. So it's like you do want to reel it in sooner than later. Yeah. Because all of a sudden your kids are in high school and you're just like,
who is this person? Yeah. Yeah, it's a slow, unexciting death. You know, to just kind of fizzle out, you know, and that's the part. And then people, I don't know. I'm not in a point where I'm thinking about like that, so I can't. It's hard for me to put myself in somebody's shoes who has had enough. But I can totally see how somebody would, you know, get to a point where, you know, they don't feel like themselves, or they lost a part of themselves, or they made too many sacrifices, and now they're trying to get back to who they were and all this stuff, and they think that they can't do that with the person that they're with now because they've grown apart over the years. I totally can see how that happens and how it could sneak up on you, because it's so easy to get distracted by raising kids and just ignoring, you know, your partner's feelings, because you're like, yeah, they're the other parent, I'm the parent, you know, like we're just doing our thing, you know, we're playing man, you know, like you're on that kid, I'm on this, you know, like
man defense.
Yeah, exactly. And then you switch, you know, like, but like you get stuck in that routine, and it's so easy for years to go by and you just do the same thing because it's routine, and that's what kids need. They need a routine, and it's easy to fall back on that as an excuse to ignore your significant other. And, you know, I think we're certainly in it. It's difficult to judge it right now for me, because we're so in the thick of it, having a 2 and a 5-year-old where they're totally dependent on us for everything. not autonomous at all. So this is like what I would anticipate would be kind of the worst of it, until they're both in school, until they can both get dressed by themselves, brush their teeth by themselves, and do things by themselves. We're kind of stuck where we are spending a lot more of our time, with the kids, just doing things for them. But, I think it's still an excuse, and there's always time for the things that are important to you. And that's the tough part, is that, if you say to yourself, rather than saying I don't have time, say that, this is a technique, say that is not a priority for me. It sounds a lot worse, but it's more true. Mm-hmm. Like saying, oh, we just don't have time to hang out together. No, hanging out with my significant other is not a priority for me. That is what the reality is, unfortunately, because you have the time for, you have the time for podcasting. I have the time for, playing a video game, messing with my car, golf, stuff like it. You find the time for the things that you want to find time for. It's just unfortunate that, ends up not being a priority because it's not easy. It's not, it's not as easy to, figure out something that you both want to do together when you're both trying to decompress after a day. But I think it is important, and we'll have to figure it out. And when we do that, I don't know. I don't have a timetable, so it's not, it's clearly not a priority for me yet. If you don't have a time for it, then it's not really actionable.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I was just, I was just saying, like, I think it's very common, the place that you're in, the place that I'm in, being married with kids, whether it be 1 kid, 2 kid, 5 kids. Obviously, there are different dynamics to every family, but still, having to take care of little kids, it's a lot. It's a lot.
Yep.
So I do have one more kind of, well, at least one more kind of subject. I'm curious, what do you do for a living? I know you're an architect, right?
Yes.
So when did you decide? Because I think there are so many people that are continually deciding what they want to do with their lives, right? Like my wife is kind of like thinking about a career change. She's been working for, how long now? Like 10, 12, 15 years. And she's just like, I don't know. She doesn't know if she wants to do what she's doing. But for you, did you kind of decide when you were in high school, I want to learn like how structures work, or like how to build stuff, or like what's that? How did that start?
I like playing with Legos, and it sounded cool, and I could draw, and I didn't want to go to art school. So my high school teacher, art teacher, I spent like most of my, like by senior year, I was spending like 3 or 4 periods out of a 6-period day in the art room. So just drawing stuff, that was, I always enjoyed that, had the fine motor skills to, do direct observation drawing, or draw stuff from just generate drawings or whatever. I'm out of practice now because I don't do it as much, but I started down an artistic path, thought I might want to go into graphic design because like you start thinking the basic things, like, okay, I like art, but what can I do that's art that also makes money? You think graphic design. I was like, no, I don't want to do graphic design. I don't care about that. And then, I just decided to pivot to architecture after high school. I took some time off, went to community college, took some general classes. I knew I wanted to transfer into University of Maryland. And then I kind of made the decision. When I was at community college, I was talking to a friend of the family, actually through the church, who was an architect, and he gave me some suggestions on career advice and stuff like that.
So and, it wasn't your dad or your mom.
It was nobody. No, none of them have artistic careers per se.
Right, but you say art. I mean, I think that's cool how you talk about architecture like it's an art.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that have that. I've heard stories. Yeah. I never had this story, but, your parents kind of put pressure on you to maybe do well in school, or put pressure on you to you gotta go for like the doctor or lawyer job, or you gotta like.
They should have,
because
we could have done it and we made more money.
Yeah, but I'm going to challenge you there, because it's so much easier said. It's just such a blanket response of like, yeah, those careers, first of all, they cost a shit ton of money.
Yeah.
I have a friend that's our age. He's making really good money now.
Yeah.
But he has been broke with hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt for a very long time. And he has 2 kids that are, I think, like 10 and 12. So like for all of their young childhood, he was extremely poor.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying like being a doctor is amazing if you want to do that.
Yeah.
But it's like, we all don't want to be doctors. And we all can't be. And we all don't want to be lawyers.
Yeah.
You got to be really good with words. You got to be really persuasive. You could be a lawyer.
I wanted to be.
I mean, look, you're probably going to be working for at least 30 years. With how things are going. You would be a great lawyer.
I love to argue points that I don't care about.
Right. But like, you hear people like, I know when I got into like the film industry. Yeah. I think I've told this story to you. My dad really was instrumental. He was great. I said, let me check out production again, and he said, come on out. And fast forward, now we're 12 years into it. And it's treated me really well, and I'm very lucky and fortunate. My dad was able to introduce me to all this stuff, and I really became interested in it. But when I first started, the amount of like jokes and the amount of like dirty looks and the amount of like people would like jab at my dad. Like, you're getting your son into this industry?
Yeah.
Like, cause freelancing is it can be very painful, because there are other people that can do what you're doing, and you're kind of always competing for jobs. And there can be really lulls of work, like big lulls.
It's like architecture, exactly the same as architecture.
Right. But you found a firm that will pay you a salary.
Yes.
There are no like, I mean, there are production jobs, but their salaries are terrible. Yeah. But that being said, like, anyway, what I'm getting at is, people would say like, you should do this, you should do that. And I was like 24 at the time. And I was like, I don't want to be a doctor. I don't want to be a lawyer. I don't want to be all these things that people say, like, you should do that. And I'm just like, me? I can't do biology.
Yeah.
But it's all worked out. And I think there's so many ways to make money now. I mean, you think about when our kids are in their 20s, man,
there'll be none.
We can't even.
There'll be no.
We can't even. I bet we can't even fathom life's going to be like in 20 years, because in 2004, think about how different things were.
Yeah, I mean, in general they were, but at the same time, I'm kind of underwhelmed by how little we've progressed since 2004. Like,
you are.
Yeah, a little bit.
Oh, tell me about that. What do you?
A little bit. I mean,
so where do you think we should like?
No, because I lived through it, so I saw it all happen in real time. So it's not like I was plucked out of 2004 and just dropped here. It's hard for me to do that exercise.
Yeah, but in 2004 we were like 18, right?
Yeah, ish.
Yeah, so we were kind of like very young adults.
Yeah,
and so for our whole adulthood, like, think about what you were doing. You didn't have smartphones.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You didn't. I mean, smartphone, that in itself is changing everything. Everyone has a high quality camera.
Yeah, it's
in their pocket. So how does that change how things work?
It's because I'm not in the environment that I was in 2004 now with what I have now. Like, if I had a smartphone and I was in high school and I could figure out, like, and I could see exactly how that affected me and like how that affected my interactions and how, like, bullying and how people have access to you all the time. Like, it's hard for me to suspend, like, how to transplant my experience from back then into today. So I don't know. Yes. There obviously are a lot of technological changes, but in terms of the quality of life, I'm about where I thought I would be. So it's fine. I hear what you're saying, and I'm trying to figure out if I'm of a different opinion, because I feel that I could have done any number of things, and I would have been happy with any of them. My happiness is not tied to a specific skill set, but it is tied to being able to develop a skill set that is challenging and that I find somewhat rewarding, that it contributes to something relatively tangible and is engaging mentally, So being a doctor, yeah, that could be fun. Being a lawyer, yeah, I could find fun in that. Being a mechanic, could probably find some fun in that. Like I can see a lot of possibilities, and I never really discount anything. So I feel like architecture was just, a path that I pivoted to with the, I started down a path of art. And so then I pivoted to, more computer based, and then I pivoted to architecture, and once I got to college, because that seemed like it made sense at the time. And then I was like, hey, pretty good at this. So I stuck with it. And, years later, I'm in architecture now, and it has nothing to do, my aspect of architecture has nothing to do with art. Yeah. It is absolutely nothing. Like, there are people who are the designers who deal with that sort of stuff. They call them blue sky designers or whatever, people who start with a blank slate, and they're the conceptualizers. They're doing, by the way, all their jobs are going to get eaten up by AI if they haven't already, because nobody cares about rendering.
They want some more.
Yeah, man. Yeah. They just crank them out. But, people like me, I'm a project manager. That could be literally any career. So it kind of sucks because I'm in architecture, which pays less than I could be as a project manager doing something else. But maybe I could pivot if I wanted to. Not really looking to make a pivot because I don't want to start my career over again. But
yeah,
I just want to see this one through, and I think it's good enough and challenging enough and rewarding enough that I'm not feeling like I'm missed out per se. But it is.
Tell me about your expertise. One of your expertise is architecture.
Yeah.
Right. If nothing else, I mean, you're spending 40 hours a week, right? For years and years. What AI is affecting everyone.
Yeah.
Affecting many industries. What do you like? How do you see AI affecting the architectural world?
Well, like I just said, concept renderings are going to get way cheaper. They're already
so let's pause because for people that don't know what's a concept.
Oh, like the pretty pictures. Whenever somebody sees something that's like the 3D image of like on a site that they've like dropped into the site, and it shows what the building could look like. And it's the marketing image that you see. A new project is coming, a new apartment building is coming, a new skyscraper is coming, and they show the night view with all the lights on and the skyline, and show the building glowing, with all the people in front of it and the cars driving around, on the street, or they do a video version of it, like a fly around. It's a marketing material. It's it's the pretty image.
Right.
So pretty images days are numbered in developing those. There's still actually some demand for watercolor, and we actually, at my previous firm, we actually hired a guy who's like really good at watercolor to do some of those renderings, for more of a hand touch, because I was at more of a firm that actually valued that. But a lot of people are just going with slick like renderings, and they're just going to leverage AI. A lot of the big software companies that have like a monopoly on like architecture software, like Autodesk, they're investing in programs that can I forget what it's called, but we just had a demo of it. AI be able to do some of the menial tasks in putting together an architectural drawing set, or doing something dumb like dimensioning, like taking a first pass at dimensioning your drawings, and then you go back and edit them rather than you having to click, saving you clicks on stuff that, is just, it's got to get done. It's not going to change the drawing or the substance of the drawing, but you just got to, you just usually have a lower, level designer go through and just dimension a bunch of plans, which is, pretty boring work. And I don't think anybody will miss that if it goes away. I don't think that AI is going to take away project management, because so many things can go wrong, and you need a person. Right now, you need a person to be able to coordinate that, to be able to talk to all of the different parties, and to be able to, keep the engineer on their deadline, or be able to talk to the city and, let them know what your plans are for, egress or something. I don't know, without getting into the weeds on the specifics. I just think that, project management, when you're dealing with human beings, is somewhat protected for now from AI.
Yeah. Do you ever think like we can't even imagine what's going to be changed?
Oh, I know.
Really abstractly. With like, what's the craziest thing that could come from AI? It's like, geez,
People is the craziest thing that will come from AI, in my opinion.
Robots?
No, generated people online, like a non-existent persona that you can generate. You can generate a entire personality. You can generate a person who thinks and provides responses and thoughtful responses in their own way. Like, you just generate a likeness of a person, and then you combine likenesses of people, and you're like, yeah, a little more of that person, a little bit, humor of that person. You create people. So I think that is where the future is going to go.
Wasn't there a movie about that?
Yeah, Her. I mean, I think there's an old movie. I never saw it, but I think it was called Sabrina. I think it was like Al Pacino and somebody else, and it was like a made-up movie star. It could be totally wrong, but I'm pretty sure that was the premise of the movie. It was like an early 90s movie, I want to say. But yeah, no, it's but we're getting to that. We're getting to that sort of future. We're getting to the Gattaca future, one of my favorite movies, and we will be there. That's not necessarily to do with AI, but Gattaca was a movie with that was Ethan Hawke and Uma Thurman back in like 95, I want to say. And it was about a future where people figured out how to isolate genes. They figured out how to isolate all of the, all of your negative, genetic, traits. So like if you had a higher risk of, cancer or whatever, they could edit all of that stuff out before you were even born. So you had people who were basically born with all the advantages that you could possibly have genetically, because why wouldn't you want the best for your kid when they're born? But the flip side of that was that anybody who was born naturally couldn't get a decent job. They couldn't get decent insurance, because who's going to want to hire somebody who has a higher risk of heart failure versus the perfect person who, is going to cost the company a lot less, perform a lot better, be a lot smarter, a lot faster, never miss a keystroke, who's going to want to hire a regular person when you could hire a normal person? And all they needed to do in that movie to determine was, you'll go in for an interview, but you leave behind a piece of hair. They suck it up. They test you. They figure out that you were not, genetically modified. And they're like, yeah, you're not really qualified for the job.
GMO people. That's really abstract, but I feel like that's how that could be a possibility.
It is now. It already is, because they have all these scientists in Japan, they were interviewing them, and they were like, yeah, we've gotten to the point where where we know that we are able to start editing people's genetic makeup and isolating traits. And they obviously said we're excited about it, but there are obviously numerous moral gray areas that we need to get around and that we need to figure out before we start implementing this on human beings. I mean, they're years away from being able to do it on humans, on human embryos, but it is something that is actively happening now. And the problems just because it's a movie doesn't mean that that's not how humans would act.
I think the only at least my thoughts right now, the only positive from that would be if, let's say, you were infertile or something, and there's something you could mess with to get fertile, or you know what I mean, mess with that. Well, you just can't have kids.
That's what it was. I mean, that's
the motivation for it. Huh?
That's where it came from, is being able to take any single cell from a person and create a sperm and an egg from you. So you could be the mother and the father of your kid. You could, so you could have a genetic creation, a genetic child, and that's, great for same-sex couples, and you want the genetic makeup of both parents, and you want to have a child that way. But it also comes with the negative side effects of being able to edit a bunch of other stuff,
Right, like the temptation to be like...
And why wouldn't you change a bunch of sliders to give your kid the advantages?
So, damn. But then who's going to birth the baby?
Just a surrogate.
A surrogate,
Yeah.
There's going to be a bunch of surrogates. Is that just like the future?
No, I mean, if it's America, you pay somebody enough, there's going to be a surrogate.
Yeah, I know. I like that thought though. And it's, I mean, it's not even a thought.
No,
it's kind of real. You said it. I'll have to look that up. Japanese.
I mean, it was
embryo.
It was a piece on NPR a couple months ago, but you can just look it up. It's just it's out there. I mean, it's science now. So
it's science.
Yeah, but just look up creating embryos from single cell, and it'll probably pull up every latest article on where they are on that. But my point is that the only thing I can tell about the future is that we're going to be way further than we can comprehend. And that's a guarantee, because we're already beyond what we can comprehend with the freaking internet. So everything else beyond the internet is, just icing on the cake. We can't comprehend what we're creating now. We're just compelled to create, and we can't go backwards, and we just see progress, and we're like, oh, let's do that thing because we can do the thing. And you can't stop people from doing the thing. You can't stop people from studying stem cell research. You can try, but there is not technology. You're not going to be able to pull what they did on the electric car and pull the plug on that to stifle innovation on that. In like AI, for example, that ain't stopping. And neither is the genetic research. That stuff isn't stopping.
I'm curious. Just in my line of work, I'm curious
that's scary.
There's a lot of, I don't know if you saw that, like Tyler Perry had like an $800 million studio that he was going to build.
Yeah. And
then like, there's these AI companies. They're like, check this out. I mean, who's to say that podcasts won't all be fake?
That's what I'm saying. They would be.
Right. But who is going to... Maybe our kids won't care. Maybe they won't care that everything they're hearing and everything they're seeing isn't actually real. But I feel like people will want real people in what they consume. Like, we already have the animation. We have the cartoons. The cartoons have been around forever, right? Not forever, but, I just don't... If a movie is 100% AI... I mean, maybe that would upset us, but is it going to upset our kids? Like, do they care?
No, they're not, because you're going to be able to create the perfect movie stars. I mean, it takes away from us.
So you're just going to see the same movie stars, maybe. So you'll see like, oh yeah, I saw that from that. It's an AI person, but you keep seeing that same.
Yeah, because people will want consistency. So you'll end up you can create another Tom Cruise. You're like, yeah, Tom Cruise won the right to keep his license, but guess what? We're going to make a taller, better, not crazy Tom Cruise, and he's going to star in all of our movies, and you can't do anything about it because he's better than the real thing.
Yeah, like if you want Brad Pitt in a movie, you just go to him. He has the likeness.
Sounds illegal,
like
right now.
Copyrighted, or I don't know. Like, I don't know that, and it gets.
I think that's what they were striking for, so that wouldn't happen. Man, it sucks.
Oh, you want Brad Pitt's likeness? You have to pay me $3 million, and then Brad Pitt gets $2 million of that, and then his company gets $1 million. I don't know. That's what I'm imagining. That's how it would work, but I have no idea.
Yeah, but why would you want your likeness? Why would your likeness be worth anything? After a while,
when they can just literally make somebody that looks sort of like you.
Yeah, when they can make somebody who's better than you, and just shop their personality until they get a likable enough, believable enough version of that person.
Well, that's easy to find the personality, because that's what actors do. They're always different people.
Yeah.
So that part's the easy part.
Oh yeah, true.
It's really like,
but you want them to be that person acting as a person. You don't want them to be a different person who changes the tone of the. You want them to be acting still. I feel that that's the allure of acting, is that people know that it was a person and the person is pretending to be another person, so it's great. But when you have a computer pretending to be a person, it could literally turn into something else, so it's not as fun. But I don't think people are going to care as long as it bears a resemblance to somebody pretending to be somebody else that they can see and they can relate to. And they're like, oh, wasn't it funny seeing so-and-so be this? Because that's not how they usually are. They're usually a straight man character and they play a comedic role, but their personality somehow translates into it in a funny way. Like, we're going to, I don't think people are going to care that it's AI. I think they're going to care that it's consistent and they don't want to just see new stars in every movie. I don't think we're quite there yet. Maybe eventually people will get so numb to it that they won't care, but then every movie will be a race to the bottom because you won't know what to expect. You won't know. And it's really just gonna bastardize and commoditize.
But so movies. Yeah. I think movies and I can see like commercials definitely changing, but. When you talk about documentaries and you talk about politicians, I mean, are we going to have AI control government?
Probably be better.
I mean, that's
at least it would be. At least if it was, based on.
Think about how crazy people would go though, or get if they got told something that they had to do. People are already getting super mad about certain things about.
Yeah, but it would actually have to follow logic. You couldn't be a hypocrite if you were following. If you programmed your politicians to follow the law, the actual law, and not to, backslide and try and, twist it to their own personal agenda that benefits them because they don't need money. They don't care about money. They can't be bought necessarily.
Yeah.
You could buy.
Yeah, but you're still going to need somebody to implement the rules.
Oh, absolutely. No, it totally is a. There's so many dangerous aspects of that. But I'm just thinking of the positive aspects of it. Like, imagine if you didn't have to deal with politicians' bullshit and they actually just ran the government and did what they thought was the best for people, and they could explain why, and then people could vote. Like, you could still kick it back. You'd have to kick it back to people at some point, because you don't want to just have the computers deciding everything. But anyway, I'm talking on my ass because I have no idea how you would actually implement.
Dude, that's the whole point. Is I'm talking on my ass too. I mean, that doesn't even make sense. AI government, but it seems like
but if you asked AI to interpret the Constitution, like, you could get an AI if you had an algorithm. The problem is that you wouldn't be able to tell if it was compromised, and now people are so distrusting that they would just assume, oh, it's been compromised. That's not the real interpretation.
Yep.
I would love to have the AI interpret the Bible too.
That's fascinating.
Like ask based on the Bible, what should I do in this scenario?
Oh,
and you're like, should I really love my neighbor? And you're like, would the Bible have me murder this person? And it says yes, probably. And you're like, oh, great. Bible wrong again. No.
Well, I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful, and I could be very wrong, but I'm hopeful in just speaking generally that people will always want to see real people.
Yeah.
Whether it be, all the social media, all the content we consume.
Yeah.
I mean, there's more than ever of it.
Yeah.
There's a million different podcasts. There's thousands of shows. And some of it might go away, but I don't know.
It's going to be a sad.
We'll see. I mean, it just seems like there's just such a. And then if you go into like all the other industries, like it's definitely jobs will go away, but I think there's still there has to be jobs for enough people. I don't know.
No, I think we're gonna
like computer programming, right? Can't you just program yourself out of a job?
Yeah.
Like, I'm not a computer programmer. I don't know what I'm talking about, but that seems like that's what AI is. It's reading data that you're kind of feeding it.
I think, unfortunately, there's a whole class of work that's just going to get eliminated, and we as a society are going to need to figure out how to remain relevant. And if it's not universal basic income, we're going to have to figure out a way to make money somehow, because it ain't going to be with AI doing all of our jobs. That's not going to stimulate the economy for everybody. So, so
we just going to have a bunch of like plumbers and electricians and, more like the blue collar stuff, maybe
because
like,
or maybe just pay people like on the jobs that are shitty enough, like picking up dog poop or whatever, maybe that becomes like a super high paying job because nobody wants to do it. And you're like, guess what? We're going to keep on raising that salary until it's something that somebody wants to do.
I thought about that 12 years ago, starting a poop cleanup business. And I was like, no. You would have to charge so much just to like pay that person and the truck and the mileage and the gas. But to go around and like...
The disposal, where's it going?
I mean, that's the easy part. You just drop it off at the dump.
That's something in the past that I did not imagine, and I think Sarah Silverman actually did a joke about it, but the poop that used to exist in the early 90s, like in the late 80s, just like the dried white dog poop all over like the grass everywhere because people just left their dog poop out. Like, that all disappeared. People, like, there was an initiative some point and somebody decided that we needed to clean up the dog poop because there used to be everywhere. It used to be.
I think our relationship with dogs has changed.
Yeah.
Dramatically.
Okay.
I think people have always loved dogs, right? It's a very special relationship. I know you don't have a dog.
Not so much the poop. I did have 2 dogs.
But yeah, the poop is that's the weird part. But I just think like a lot of people look at their dogs like their family. Yeah. You know, I do.
Yeah. Yeah.
I do. But I mean, I don't even know if that's why people pick up their dog poop. I just think it's like a social thing. Like, nobody wants to step in dog poop. It's disgusting.
Yeah.
So it's a part of the...
Yeah, it was just the right thing. It was time. It's time to start cleaning up dog poop.
Unless you're on like a farm. So it's only like in suburbia and cities where that happens. But like, you're not picking up your dog poop if you're out in rural America.
I'm going to have to check that statistic. I don't know. No, I don't know. Yeah. Anyway, no, I just don't. I think that we really, like, I agree with you. We have a complete inability to, to project the future, to correctly predict the future. We can't do that. And 2, what we are even worse at doing, again, according to some psychiatrist stuff that I read way back, to predict how we're going to feel in the future about something. So while we might be able to project out, a little bit further and figure out what we're going to do in the future, we can't really tell how we're going to feel about it when the future gets there. So yeah, we're flying blind is what I'm saying. Like, we're aiming in a direction that we think, and we're going to have to pivot along so many times along the way that we have no idea how we're going to feel about it. We have no idea how our kids are going to feel about AI actors and actresses. If they grow up with that, that's all they're going to know. So of course they won't have a negative opinion about it. They'll be like, why would we pay somebody to act when I could just generate a new show by clicking this button and say, I want a new sci-fi movie, create me a sci-fi movie now. And then if you like it and it was a good movie, then you save it and you like, can you imagine that? Like, and that is a very real, in my mind, that's a very real reality, that AI gets so far that TV is what you choose to create. You can watch some live sports, but other than that, you could create something immediately.
That sounds very intriguing to me.
Yeah.
Like, imagine this is possible where you go on your computer and you say, I want to watch a show about a guy with 3 arms that can play a guitar, and then he gets one cut off, and then he decides. You could say any kind of wild stuff.
Yeah,
and then you're like, make it 90 minutes.
Yeah. Make it heartfelt.
Make it heart like.
Or do you want a comedy or heartfelt?
Yeah, there's all these options. You just like comedy. Yeah, you click horror, it all, and then the fun of it would be, I wonder what AI is going to come up with. I have no idea what I'm going to watch. Yeah. What did I just click? Create and what did the AI create? And like, to me, that's kind of fascinating. That seems like I'd be like very interested in that. Then even today, I'd be like, that'd be kind of cool. Hey dude, you want to watch a movie? Let's just pick a bunch of stuff and click create, and then like boom.
Yeah, and then
20 minutes later has a movie, or like two minutes later, who knows how long.
Yeah, and then you could have people. You could just put it out there, have people rank it, and then you could see the top ones that people were able to create. And that becomes the Oscars. It's you're like,
Oh no, how sad! How sad, but how that seems very realistic. If it goes that way, we're gonna remember this conversation. Be like, dude, look what you can do now. Me and you are gonna be like grandpas, like, hey, look at this.
I came up with that idea.
We did nothing with it except we just
yeah.
I mean, I'm sure they might already be. Maybe that's what this. I think there was like a meeting like a few weeks ago.
What I see right now, taking away all the fun jobs, all the art. You know, why are we taking away the stuff that we like to do? Like we have not eliminated one job, you know, that nobody wants to do. You know, I mean,
because it's easy money.
Yeah,
if you can create art.
Yeah,
right. My AI created my logo for this podcast. Yeah, I just Googled logo creator.
Yeah.
And then you just type in a few prompts, kind of like making a movie.
Yeah.
You just make a logo. You type in 5 words, and you hit enter, and then you pick your colors, and they have all these prompts, all these options. And you're like, oh, that one looks cool. So instead of hiring somebody, but I used AI because, I mean,
where's that logo I'm looking for?
I'll show it to you after this. But I mean, yeah, to your point, it's I don't know if it's, well, yeah, I think the money will be funneled to less people, like you're saying.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of learning AI and how to use it. Oh, it's getting.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. No,
you're good, man.
My phone's buzzing. That's all.
You do hear a lot of stories about like people that are really successful. And they're like, oh, I was so poor as a kid.
Yeah.
And which is amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing that you made it out. But like for every story you hear about that, there's probably at least 10 stories that didn't turn out well.
A lot more than that, probably.
Yeah,
again,
probably way more than 10 to 100 to 1. You know,
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm just talking on my ass again.
Yeah.
But like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you don't hear those stories because nobody wants to hear those stories.
Yeah, everybody wants to hear the unicorn story, and that's the biggest caveat is when the best argument is a unicorn story, it's probably not a very good argument. You're like, well, this one person, and you're like, well, that's not the norm, and that shouldn't be expected to be the norm.
Yeah,
because
it's like saying, and I'll have to look this up, but it was something in like the early 1900s. It's like some black woman like had a very successful like sugar business or something.
Yeah, and then white people burned it down.
Dude, I mean,
that was very in style back then.
Actually, might be true.
Yeah,
but my point is that like, you're like, oh well, she did it, so like everything's fine.
Yeah,
and like everything was not fine in the 1920s.
Yeah, so everybody else was stupid. That's why they didn't make it. Everybody else wasn't smart as this woman. And if they had been, then all of them would have been guaranteed success.
Right. Yeah.
Or not. Yeah. So yeah, don't try and make the unicorn case.
I'll have to find that. I'm gonna Google that story after this and be like, this is what I was talking about. But I remember seeing that and be like, whoa,
it was burned down.
That's
guaranteed. No shit survived the 1920s that black people had.
Oh shit. It depends on where. It might have been in Massachusetts. I don't know if they did that.
They burned a lot of things in Massachusetts. Witches. Dunking though.
Witches. True.
And not 1900s. I'm off by a couple of centuries.
I'm only laughing because you're laughing.
Yeah.
By the way.
Yeah. No.
If you're like
burning people isn't very funny.
Yeah, especially because of their race.
Exactly.
That's rough.
Oh man. So no, I mean, I don't know. I really every time I see something on like social media, like I'm like hypersensitive to anything that sounds like a unicorn story, because that's all it is. Social media is a bunch of unicorn stories, and they're like, oh, check out this, this person who made these motivational quotes, and I'm like, it's just
there's ways.
It smells like bullshit.
Yeah. I mean, I understand your that point of view, and there is truth to it. Social media is fake.
It's not motivational, honestly.
To me. To you. But I think to a lot of people, like. Sometimes, like if we were actually talking about motivational things, and we post this on social media, we're just speaking our truth. We're speaking what we think works or we think will help people. So I don't necessarily mind it, because I think there's like successful people I think genuinely successful people want more people to succeed. That's just my opinion. I'm not talking about the super, super greedy, mean, whatever. Call them what you want.
Don't sell it. Don't sell that information. Just give it away.
Yeah.
If you're selling the information, then that's is a red flag, because that's probably how you're making your money, is selling the information.
If you believe in the product you're selling,
yeah,
which is like trying to, let's say you're like a men's health guy that's like into physical fitness, or you're a mental health guy that's into like helping men get through the struggles.
Yeah, there are people
when you're making money off of that. I think that's the dream.
Yeah,
is to like do something that you actually care about, and that's morally okay with you.
But then you stop caring about it when you start caring about the money. That's the part
that's the challenging part, for sure. That's definitely a dynamic.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like the mega churches. They believe in God and everything they're saying, but like some of those guys, I'm like, how do you have millions of dollars doing this?
The gospel of prosperity, man. I just have a distrust of people trying to sell success online. It's just never really sits quite right with me, that you can just replicate somebody else's success, because it is your story and it's based on your circumstances, and it's not just a process. There are healthy habits that can help you, be in a better position, but you need to check a couple of boxes that people don't always acknowledge. You need to have a stable base in order to start to do a lot of things and open up some flexibility to explore opportunities and to be ready to act on opportunities. And a lot of that stuff is just not available to a lot of people. And people just, I feel that a lot of these things that are intended to be motivational can actually have the exact opposite effect and make people feel depressed because they haven't made it, when it is clearly portrayed, at least, as a simple process that they need to follow. And they're like, oh man, why can't I figure it out? And it's not that you're stupid and that you can't figure it out. It's that you're missing, or you're not being given a key aspect of why it works for some people and why it doesn't work for some people. And there's a personal aspect to it that I don't think you can just mass produce ever. So I don't know. I haven't seen a ladder, a genuine ladder to success that was not motivated by just money, and that had just works for everybody.
Money is, currency is just, they're just numbers in a bank account that provide
give me your numbers. It's just numbers, man. Just give me a couple.
I'm trying to think of it on a like. But you do what you do in architecture because there are numbers that are going into your bank account.
Yeah, and they're good enough for the effort that I put in. So
good
enough.
You're okay with that.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of people that aren't, right? And so
and there's a lot of people that work a lot harder than me, and I hate when people don't acknowledge that I'm very blessed to do as little work as I do, and I do work, but like as little work as I do and get paid and allowed to live the life that I live with as little work that I do. And people are not, like, a lot of people are not humble enough to say, I'm not doing a lot of work. No, I'm not a hard worker. I'm not harder worker than that guy over there raking leaves. He's working way harder than me and making way less. People just don't have too much ego they want to think that they're a hard worker. A lot of people are not hard workers, and their jobs are not that hard, and they're not that smart, and they're not that special. They're just lucky, or they picked the right career, or they had the right connections. It is very rarely attributed, in my opinion, not so humble opinion, to somebody's just innate talent. There's a lot of support behind you, a lot of resources behind you, a lot of circumstance, and it can't just be replicated, and it is not purely indicative of your work ethic. Yes, if you have resources and work ethic, you're going to get a lot farther than somebody with just work ethic. But I really, people do not, people who have a lot don't, it is such a trap to think that you deserve anything. And I don't think anybody deserves anything. I think everybody deserves the absolute least. And if you have more than the least, then you're doing better than most. Like, I don't know. That's a cynical way to end.
We're getting really cynical. No, but I appreciate it, man.
It is, because it humbles you. Like, you don't deserve shit. Like, you really do not. You like, and especially not for as hard as some people are working. You should count yourself lucky if you live a comfortable life where you're afforded the luxury of being bored and having your bills paid. Like, if your bills are paid and you are, sitting around thinking about what you can be doing because you're bored, you're good. Like like most people, like a lot of people are out there just grinding, and hoping that they can, drink a beer at the end of the day before they go out and grind again, like. That is, so count your blessings, I guess is what I'm saying, and don't account it to, your smarts or your ability. Just acknowledge you're lucky. You're born in the right place. If I wasn't born in the United States, I could have been born anywhere, and I could have died as a kid. Who knows? Like, you don't deserve anything. So just take it as a blessing and be thankful for what you have, because you did not earn it.
Jesus.
Just rest assured that you did not earn it. I didn't. You didn't. Nobody did.
Well, oh my God, Chris, this has been.
You don't have to put that piece at the end. You can. You can cut that.
Well, yeah, we can cut anything we want. But Chris, this has been really fun, man.
Yeah.
I'd love to do it again too. Whenever we feel like.
Yeah, definitely, man.
Bullshitting. But yeah, thanks for coming out. Yeah, go take care of your family.
Yeah,
I'll go take care of mine, and I'll see you.
My undeserving family.
I'll see you out on the streets.
All right, man.
All right, dude.
All right.
All right.